other Tiger alumni in your region and your industry. Those links are found in the chat box. The chat box can be opened by clicking on the chat tab at the right of your webinar window. Many of you are connected to RIT through the RITx learning platform, and we offer a number of alumni services and benefits to our online audience. Please complete the form in the chat box for RIT students. It is linked in the chat box for RITx students so that we can share the opportunities available to you. Many in our RIT family have been asking how they can help our students and the university during this unprecedented situation, and we are incredibly grateful for those offers. If you are able to help, we encourage you to support the COVID-19 Student Emergency Fund, which helps students with unforeseen needs, including emergency housing, transportation, and healthcare. An immediate need is for a large number of our students that do not have the technology to complete their studies remotely. We have included a link to that information regarding the fund and a way to support it in the chat box, and we thank you very much for considering that. Now, on to today's webinar. Let's start by taking a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the presentation tools. All participants in today's webinar have joined in mute mode and cannot be heard during the presentation. However, we absolutely encourage participation. To submit your questions at any time, please enter them in the chat box, which again can be opened by clicking on the tab at the right of your webinar window. We will make every effort to address all your comments and questions throughout the webinar. You are joining today using broadcast audio. If for any reason you wish to dial in by phone, dial-in information is provided in the chat box. Live captioning is also being provided during the webinar, and you can find the link to access that in the chat box. Note that today's webinar will be recorded and made available complete with caption following today's event. All participants will receive an email with the link to the recording in approximately 1 week. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box as well, and we will do our best to get you the appropriate answers. And with that, let's get started. Today's webinar is Cybersecurity in Changing Times, Protecting Yourself During the COVID-19 Crisis. Our guest presenter is Jonathan Weissman, Senior Lecturer in the Department of Computing Security in the Golisano College of Computing and Information Sciences. Professor Weissman is the recipient of a total of 8 teaching honors and awards, including the RIT Outstanding Teaching Award, the Golisano College Outstanding Educator Award, and the RIT Distinguished Teacher Recognition Program honors. He has taught more than 50 graduate and undergraduate courses, including networking, cybersecurity, cryptography, ethical hacking and pen testing, malware reverse engineering, and systems administration, just to name a few. In addition, he has developed 3 courses for the edX-RITx Cybersecurity MicroMasters program, which he currently teaches to more than 200,000 students in over 200 countries. Professor Weissman has co-authored and updated 2 industry-leading textbooks on CompTIA Network Plus certification and serves as technical editor for many industry textbooks. In addition, he is a networking and cybersecurity consultant for local business and individuals, and he is currently authoring a new book on the new version of the CompTIA Security Plus certification. Professor Weissman has been featured in TV news, talk radio, and speaking engagements throughout the U.S. as a cybersecurity expert. He received a master's degree in computer science from Brooklyn College and holds 44 industry certifications, including CCNP routing and switching, CCNA security, CompTIA Security Plus, CompTIA Network Plus, CompTIA A Plus, CompTIA Linux Plus, CompTIA Server Plus, EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker, EC Council Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, and IPv6 Forum Certified Network Engineer Gold. You can join thousands of Jonathan's followers on LinkedIn and Twitter at his accounts listed in the chat box. Jonathan, we are so happy to have you join us here today and glad that you and your family are safe and healthy. Please take it away.
Thank you for that great introduction, Lydia. I wish the same to everybody, but let me tell you what I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say, can you hear me? I'm sure we've been through a lot of conferences over the last couple of weeks where people have been saying, can you hear me? Just say what you want to say. If people can't hear you, they'll say, you'll see that on your screen. So I'm just going to say, how's everybody doing today? Give me a little message in the chat box with your location. I like to start these webinars off with a little geography game, seeing where everybody's coming from. There is a slight delay in terms of the messages and my live words, so I will have a couple of pauses just to see some of these locations. Linwood, New York, Staten Island, New York, Dallas, Texas, San Francisco, Rochester, Richmond, Virginia, Syracuse, New Jersey, Brockport. So we've got a lot of Sacramento, California, a lot of locations covered, Orlando, Florida. Thank you again for joining me. And I hope that everybody and their families are safe and dealing with this crisis as best as possible. But as you know, we've got a lot to discuss today. So let's get moving. I've made this presentation for you, and it's been evolving over time because as each new day, as each new hour went by, I've seen things that I said, I absolutely need to use this in my presentation. So like Lydia was saying, for that initial estimation of a half hour, we might go slightly over only because this is an evolving entity, sort of like the virus itself with exponential growth. So please bear with me. I've got a lot to discuss with you today. Working from home has posed a lot of challenges for people over the last couple of years. I found this picture on the internet recently of some weirdo working from home with a shirt and tie and RIT sweatpants. Wait a minute. No, don't look at that picture. Oh, too late. That's me. And those are my toes. And working from home does allow you a lot of comfort. But as I like to say in my cybersecurity classes, it's a seesaw. When cybersecurity goes up, what goes down? What's common? When the seesaw goes up for cybersecurity, convenience goes down. When convenience goes up, security goes down. So what we have to discuss today is the fact that, yes, I love being in my sweatpants. I love my bare toes, but at the same time, working from home will pose major challenges as far as cybersecurity goes, starting with the ever popular phishing and malware. So starting off, I want to pose a question. If you've been in my webinars in the past, you know I like to be as dynamic and interactive as possible. There's a message in the chat box about the slides not changing. Hang on one second.
Jonathan, okay. I see them changing, so it may just be a delay.
Or maybe they were hacked because they haven't seen this webinar yet. And they'll be able to protect their infrastructures afterwards. So there might be a slight little delay. So I will pause just so everybody can see them changing. Lydia, do you have any suggestions for people who cannot see the slides changing?
You know what, the only suggestion I would have is either refresh your screen, or if you log out and then log back in to the webinar forum, it may reset things for you.
Okay. Refreshing helped, so great suggestion.
Like turn it off and turn it back on? I'm sorry.
That's what everybody in IT does. If turning it off and turning it on doesn't work, look on your keyboard for the any key. Hit that any key. That might work as well. Those of you that we're not seeing the slides change, I really would not want you to miss this picture right over here. Let's just take a look at this weirdo one more time. Oh my gosh, shirt and tie and sweatpants. Terrible fashion.
Okay, I'm seeing people saying that refreshing seemed to help that problem.
Right. All right. Here we go, folks. I want you, and I am watching the chat box with my very eyes over here. I want you to tell me, I came up with a list of 7 different reasons why phishing and malware is a great attack vector, not just in general, as we've spoken about in the past, but specifically, why is this great for the coronavirus COVID-19 situation that we're in right now? Give me some reasons. Tell me some reasons why phishing and malware is great. Bunch of people saying fear, that's up there. People are uncertain. Everyone's home. Inexperienced people are home. I'm looking at my list over here. This is like playing Family Feud. 7 answers on the board. I believe 3 of you have hit on 7 of my answers. Lots of time to read fake news, lots of good information. Everybody's connected more, searching for more info. Absolutely. So let me take you through my list of 7. Let's see how many of these were matched in the chat box. Number 1, tons of new information generated very frequently. Like we were saying, this was originally supposed to be a 30-minute presentation. And you know what? If it was to be next Tuesday instead of this Tuesday, probably be a 4-hour presentation. So the number of stories and alerts that are coming out off the charts ridiculous. And not only that, the information itself is changing constantly. You hear X at 12 o'clock, you'll hear X plus 1 or Y at 1 o'clock. So it's not just that there's tons of information that's being generated very frequently. It's the fact that that information is a moving target and it's never static. It never stays the same. Now, when you've got employees that are working from home and they're getting emails from clients or from organizations, they are going to get bombarded more so than in the past. And it's not really a bad thing. You can't really knock the organizations from sending this volume of email. But at the same time, I'm just thinking about my RIT email account. And I love it. The fact that they're keeping us updated, the fact that they're keeping us in the loop with what's going on in that world, proverbial real world, what's going on within the RIT community. Yes, it's great, but you know what? It's taking me a long time to get through my inbox nowadays. Much more long than in the past. And now here's another little kicker to COVID-19. Employees, they know that they're getting more emails, but now they're expecting more what I call out of the ordinary emails from their IT staff that are making them more likely to click on the phishing attempts that are coming through. So whereas in the past, your IT staff had vanilla instructions and black and white instructions and X and Y and north and south and up and down, now the IT staff emails are a little bit different, a little bit maybe more invasive or more unique than they've been in the past. Where in the past you might have said, the IT staff will never ask me to do that. But you know what? Now they might. People want to read and learn about COVID-19, even though we do have the phenomenal volume of information that's being pushed to us 24/7, 365 now. People are interested in it. So this is a topic that they're not going to just throw away or delete right away. And this is something that's very interesting. I have one of our kids is on the computer down the hall in his kindergarten class. Another kid down the hall in a different room is in his 2nd grade class right now. My wife's job for the next hour is to make sure that they're quiet so I could hear this webinar and you could hear me well. So people are more distracted working from home. We don't have any pets, but my children can get more loud than dogs and really any other domesticated or maybe undomesticated animals as well. So I tell them, guys, if you're quiet during this webinar, I'm going to buy you something on the internet after 1 o'clock. If we don't, let me know if you hear anything. If you hear one of my kids or if you hear my wife, I told her I'd buy her something as well if she keeps them quiet. If you guys hear anything, let me know. I will not buy them something after this webinar. But when you have, in all seriousness, when you have people at home that are infringing on your airspace, things might get misinterpreted. Things might get misheard. You might see something or read something in a different light. And the normal day-to-day operations of a household are different and present a different environment than your work environment. And of course, this is a big one. Emotions are running high. So when people let their guard down and they fall for a phishing attempt before COVID-19, that was one thing. But now take everybody's emotional, mental state and jack it up even more. And now the guard, in my opinion, will be let down even more so in the past. And that's why phishing and malware is a major, major concern, especially here in the world of coronavirus, COVID-19. Any questions or comments before I move on? I got my eye on the chat box. If you saw that picture, I got a bunch of screens all in front of me. One of those screens has the chat box. You have been warned. Yes, the slides will be made available after today, so I'm going to give you a copy of all this good stuff. Okay. Take a look at this sample email. And in all of the slides that I have taken from different websites, the references are going to be in the speaker notes, so you'll be able to go and click on those links for further readings. This is an email that comes from the CDC. No, it isn't. But when you see distributed via the CDC Health Alert Network, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention continues to closely monitor an outbreak of a 20 and so on and so forth. Trust me, people are falling for these. Here's another example. This is just a very nice alert. Oh, by the way, I'm person X from country Y, and I care about your health. Please go ahead and read this attached document on safety measures regarding the spreading of coronavirus. This little measure can save you. Use the link below to download. And of course, when you're prompted for macros to install and zips, go ahead and do all that good stuff. No, don't do any of that stuff, of course. Or look at this, coming from a particular organization. Due to the coronavirus outbreak, RIT is actively taking safety precautions by instituting a communicable disease management policy. So when those emails come from IT staff and human resources, you are in some cases expecting something like this. And your guard is let down so much, it's a millisecond. That's all that's needed for you to go ahead and click the link. You're going to be sent to some drive-by download exploit kit site, and all you have to do is go to that site, and you could be in big cybersecurity trouble. So in terms of phishing, in terms of malware that we're looking at, in the past, obviously, it's been a concern, but now, due to that list of 7 great reasons why COVID-19 coronavirus is going to be influencing that even more, we've got to be more diligent. Okay. How many people were at my last webinar on March 10th? So March 10th, how many people were at the webinar on March 10th? Anybody in this chat in that webinar on March 10th? On March 10th, I gave a webinar, and there's going to be a link available for the public as well if you want to catch up on that. I called it the latest and greatest stories from the world of cybersecurity. And as I talked about in that webinar, I went through some stories that I post daily to my LinkedIn account. If something happens in the world of cybersecurity, it will be posted in my LinkedIn account. I like to be that news source that gets it out there as quickly as possible. So I thought it'd be fun for all of my tens of thousands of followers to, instead of just comment on those daily articles that I post, but to actually discuss them. And we had a phenomenal webinar. Little did I know that in this same month, we're about to turn the page to April, but in the same month right over here, I'll be giving something very similar. And all of these stories that I want to show you in this attacks section are, again, latest and greatest stories from the world of cybersecurity, but obviously it's a COVID-19 theme right over here. This one is from March 13th. March 13th, Otterbein University working to resolve malware attack before switching to online classes. So this is before the measures were put in place for colleges across the country and outside of the United States to move to a distance learning online format. So here you have this university that was actually a victim of a malware attack before they even were able to switch to online classes. A second form of malware hit their infrastructure, but I believe now their classes are up and running. Feel free, by the way, to interject on any of these stories. I have my eye on the chat box. Or how about this one? This is from also March 13th. A large Czech Republic hospital responsible for running tests for the novel coronavirus said Friday that a cyber attack had hit its computer systems. So here you have an organization, a hospital that's running tests for the coronavirus, and they were the victim of a cyber attack. How about this one? This is from March 16th. Cyber attack hits U.S. health agency amid COVID-19 outbreak. So the story on this is that there was a campaign of disruption and disinformation where they wanted to cause fear and people going nuts because of the situation. So the U.S. Health and Human Services Department were attacked. Their infrastructure, their cyber systems were attacked. And it was just to propagate disruption and disinformation. They're calling this the work of a foreign actor. How about this? Coronavirus scam alert. COVID-19 map malware can spy on you through your Android camera and microphone. I'm sure we've seen these. The Johns Hopkins University map of the coronavirus. There have been a couple of fake maps. This story comes from March 18th from Forbes.com. And this is promising you an app if you click on the link and download and installing the application. They say this one actually originated out of Libya. And of course, what happens now is when you install this quote unquote map, the adversaries can watch you through your smartphone camera. They can listen to you through your microphone, and they can actually steal all of your text messages. Any thoughts on that one? It does get scarier and scarier. This is from March 20th. Coronavirus, council IT systems compromised by virus scam emails. And yes, it's exactly what we were talking about. It's the fact that people are clicking on links and bringing down their entire infrastructures. Look at that second paragraph. In a communication to workers, it said Rotherham Council's IT system had been compromised by an email with COVID-19 in the subject field. Well, you want more? I got more. Another map story. This one's a little bit different. North Dakota governor, others warn, beware of disinformation related to coronavirus. So this particular attack was a little bit different. This particular attack was a false map, obviously fashioned to look like a coronavirus tracker that Johns Hopkins University created, that was only put in place to do what? Like we saw in an earlier story, to instill fear and fury in people who went to that particular app. There are crazy, insane people in this world who want to cause fear. And that's what this particular fake map did. That was from March 22nd. This one over here is from also March 22nd. It gets even scarier. You might say, okay, that's as scary as it can get. A lot of this is scarier as we go on incrementally over here. Hackers are targeting hospitals crippled by coronavirus. Urgent surgeries were postponed at the hospital. And this hospital, by the way, that they're talking about in the article early on, is a key COVID-19 testing site in the Czech Republic that we saw earlier related to that story. So now you have hospitals that are being targeted, hospitals that can help people, hospitals that can do research on the COVID-19 virus. This is one of my favorites over here. Compare the left to the right. Look at those two headlines. On the left, we have MyGov hit by cyberattack as tens of thousands of Australians seek Centrelink help amid coronavirus pandemic. And what does it say on the right? What's the difference between the left and the right? Who could tell me? That's good, Adam. The date is different. The header is different. The perspective is different. So originally, the Government Services Minister, Stuart Robert, told Parliament that they were hit by a cyber attack and there was a distributed denial of service attack. Yep, Mohammed, a DDoS. But then hours after that, he said basically, psych, it's just the large volume of people that are trying to access the site that actually caused it to go down. So it wasn't really a cyber attack. Thoughts on that? Jumping the gun in terms of blaming it on a cyber attack right now. That is a DDoS. You know, Marco, I was thinking the same thing. It was a DDoS, but not from malicious adversaries, not from an actual attacker perspective. Look at this one. Elite hackers target who as coronavirus cyber attacks spike right over here. The World Health Organization has been targeted. There is no rest for these attackers. They're going after direct lines, direct effects related to COVID-19. This is also a scary one. COVID-19 vaccine test center hit by cyber attack, stolen data posted online. And this was a large ransom that they were demanding right over here. What's really interesting about this article, when I give you guys the slides, when you read this article, is the fact that the adversarial group that launched this attack were one of the groups that made a pledge. And there's a related article in this article. They made a pledge that they would not attack healthcare and medical targets. And what happened? The temptation just couldn't be resisted. You actually had adversary groups promise that they would not attack healthcare, medical targets, and here they are going back on their words. If you're a networking fan like I am, if you love networking, look at this one. Oh, and by the way, let me point out that you see those letters RIT in the upper left-hand corner? So that's part of the slides. Don't read this as RIT hackers hijack routers DNS to spread malicious COVID-19 apps over here. That's part of, you don't believe me, there we go. There's the RIT logo. It looks like RIT hackers, but no. It's actual hackers that are, and this is an attack that's been done in the past, but now they're using this to their advantage again with COVID-19. And what this one uses is something called Network Connectivity Status Indicator, NCSI. It's basically a set of probes that Microsoft operating systems run to check whether your computer is actually connected to the internet. If it does, the machine will actually send a message to a configured IP address, and then the IP address will respond back with a text file. And that's how the operating system will know that you're actually connected to the infrastructure known as the internet. So instead of these NCSI probes hitting the Microsoft servers because of DNS, domain name system, the DNS was redirecting the DNS queries of the victim machines to some adversarial DNS server who was responding back to the DNS queries with IP addresses of the actual attackers. And as a result, instead of sending a text file back to Windows, letting Windows know that there is an actual internet connection, what was sent back? A page that prompted the victims to download and install a fake emergency COVID-19 informational screen. Thoughts on this one? This one is really off the charts ridiculous. This one is also mind-boggling. Open redirect on Department of HHS website benefits COVID-19 phishing scam. So here you have the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. They've got their website, and because they were incorrectly, poorly configured, attackers were actually leveraging that website, I guess, to add insult to injury, to attack and to have some fake COVID-19 links and redirects being sent. That's my story section. And holy cow, is that correct? Is that really 12:33? This was a half an hour presentation as of last week. So let's get to some other issues right over here. If you take a look, bring your own device issues, again, not a new thing. There's always been concerns with employee devices, but now when you have employees working from home on unsupported platforms, on unsupported operating systems that they would never use for their corporate infrastructure, attacks are more likely. The organizations themselves, they're no longer fully in control of these devices. They don't even know what devices are being used anymore. Compliance issues. Companies are out of compliance to begin with because of this BYOD issue. And how about the fact that some smaller organizations don't have the manpower or resources for increased security? In other words, they just can't roll out the extra security that's needed for the people working from home in their sweatpants and their bare toes. Not being next to someone when you're configuring something or when you're working together with somebody, where I might turn to somebody and say, hey, Bob, we need to make this change to this router over here. Make sure that the iOS is configured correctly. And Bob will say, okay, Jonathan, let's go ahead and do that. But now when you're communicating and there's a bunch of emails and there's a bunch of other emails and you're on the phone and you got kids that are very loud at home, it's harder to confirm the identity. So that obviously plays into the social engineering piece, which is a major concern as well. Configuration errors or social engineering, it's far easier for attackers to get in through the new WFH environment than it's ever been in the past. And when you have the WFH, when you have the IT departments that are changing their routine and opening up internal systems to do external work, there could be VPN issues. There could be some accidental DDoSes, as we saw with that story earlier. New devices, new ports need to be opened up. The RIT VPN that I've used in the past has been noticeably slower over the last couple of weeks. There are bandwidth issues. There are issues related to many people doing the same thing at the same time that they've never done before. Much larger attack surface. And again, you have the possibility of incorrect configuration. Okay. Some other issues that we're seeing right over here. Hackers know, of course, the tools that are being used at home. We'll talk about Zoom in a couple of seconds. Hackers targeting work from home tools. Hackers targeting the most vulnerable, whether you're quarantined or not, whether you're working from home because you have to or because you need to or because you like to. Now you are a target. And because of that, the phenomenal forensics that can be done from a corporate infrastructure just cannot be done as it was in the past, because again, you got all that BYOD, unsupported devices, unsupporting operating systems as well. Some tools were actually not designed or intended to work safely off-site via a VPN or over the internet. So some programs, some services, some applications just might not work at home. And then what happens to the work that needs to be done? Now, do you try to cut other corners and lax your security even more? Many security controls and tools used by non-distributed companies depend on being on that local network. And for instance, logs, that's my best example. Update and monitor logs. They just can't be done remotely. And then again, you have the company equipment left unmonitored. It's not being updated at the infrastructure. Maybe people that did the updates in the past are at home, WFH. They're not doing the updates. When everything goes back to the normalcy that we knew before these last few weeks, my opinion, that's going to be another vulnerability that's going to be exploited. Okay. Any thoughts or comments on any of this? Some great discussions going on in the chat box that I see, but with time being where it is, I do need to move on a little bit. Look at this article. This one is from March 26th, 5 days ago. Default exploited by Zoom bombers could be used by cyber crooks. The same default setting that allows attackers to Zoom bomb school children or remote workers meeting online with racist and pornographic content could be used by cyber criminals to unleash their malicious bag of tricks during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there have been some known Zoom issues in the past, and now those issues are going to be targeted even more. Zoom, of course, put some fixes for some security concerns in the past, but I want to read a quote from the article where it talks about government meetings that are being conducted over Zoom right now. And with the known security issues that were in the past, I can't find that quote. In terms of the known security issues in the past, conducting government activities over Zoom with certain vulnerabilities that can be exploited. Obviously, stay fastened to my LinkedIn feed and your other news outlets. All right, we got to conclude, of course, with mitigation techniques. Now, what I did was I collected a bunch of aggregated mitigation technique suggestions, and I want to highlight the ones that I feel are of most importance. Again, when you get this presentation, the source from all of these will be linked to in the speaker notes. This one comes from Inc.com. Sometime when things started to change in the world, there's no date other than March 20th for this one. VPNs are important, but like I mentioned, the RIT VPN itself is being taxed. Other VPNs across the world, as I'm sure, are being taxed as well. But from a VPN perspective, that will limit the damage to a certain extent. Now, if a user is not using the VPN at home for doing some surfing of the internet and going to sites and falling prey and victim to these phishing and social engineering attacks, when that employee connects to the corporate VPN, that's of course going to be a problem because there could be malware resident on the system through this what we call split tunnel VPN that allows the malicious traffic to enter the corporate infrastructure. So that's obviously a great concern. Standardization is also something that you should keep in mind. Instead of having different platforms and different meeting tools and different applications that are being used, it's much better to stick to a standardized set of tools and applications because implementing the security will be a more streamlined process. Updating contacts is important, where you have a list of all of the contacts in the organization, whether we're talking in terms of phone numbers or email addresses, making sure that we can prevent some spoofing attacks in this direction where attackers can verify or confirm any incoming communications. In other words, you get an email from Bob Smith at rit.edu. You say, did Bob Smith really send that? I don't really have Bob Smith's phone number. Let me, it's probably Bob Smith, and problems will happen. If we had the phone number of said Bob Smith, it might be easier to verify that it was actually Bob Smith. And that's tip number 4 over there. This is also from Inc.com in March 2020. Use the phone to confirm emails and text. That's what we call out-of-band communication, a phenomenal suggestion. And of course, from this Inc.com article, last one is don't be pennywise. The more money you put out, that does not translate proportionally into security, but it doesn't hurt it as well. And you can't say, look, nobody wants to hack me. Nobody wants to attack me. No one wants to infiltrate or exfiltrate from my company. I'm bulletproof. I'm immune. Obviously, you got to be spending and shelling out some money for some form of protection. The next set of mitigation techniques come from Norton. This was again in March of 2020, where we are still in at the precipice of the end of the month right over here. But there's no date. Norton's suggestions. Beware of online requests. Now look at all these tips over here. I don't see anything really different from normal phishing recommendations that they're giving over here, except for the first one. Can you tell me what specifically stands out with the first tip compared to the others? What stands out a little bit more? Move my mouse so I can see you guys. Yep. In other words, the theme itself. And that goes back to what we said earlier today, that people want to read, people want to learn, people are expecting out of the ordinary emails. So I would say from this set of mitigation techniques, major thing to keep in mind, of course, is that they are going to be coronavirus themed. In one of those emails that I showed you earlier, they wrote it out as corona space virus. That's a telltale indicator, of course, by applying the rules right now, that we're dealing with some form of phishing, because coronavirus is actually one word. Mitigation number 3 comes from uscert.gov. And looking for new and latest and greatest as far as CISA goes, what can you tell me you might be able to glean from here that is unique and novel, pun intended, I guess, compared to phishing of the past, security recommendations of the past? What might be unique right over here? Which one sticks out the most as novel? Remote access is up there, Ray. Absolutely. What's screaming to me is number 3. Alert employees to an expected increase in phishing attempts, because they already know that the number of emails they get is exponentially higher. Now you're telling them you're going to be getting a gazillion emails, and out of those emails, probably a higher number of percentage of phishing attempts than in the past. So number 3 is the one that's really novel to me. You guys agree with that? What do you think? Mitigation number 4. This one comes from, oh, by the way, Thomas, I want to backtrack on that. MFA stands for multi-factor authentication, also known as 2FA, two-factor authentication. That's where when you log in to identify yourself, you authenticate with something that you know, most cases a password, something that you are, biometrics, or something that you have, like a key fob. In my previous webinar, Tomas, in my previous webinar earlier this month, talked about the fact that even something like Google Authenticator is not really that safe, trustworthy, and secure anymore. And definitely SMS should not be trusted. NIST has been saying MFA through SMS, not a great thing for many years. Those of you that are coming to us from RIT, can you tell us the MFA that RIT uses? It is Duo. You guys got it. What do you guys think about usage of Duo? Do you like Duo? JJS doesn't? Why not, JJS? Adam likes it. Well, there are you know what? You could print out offline codes. And in fact, when I start classes at RIT, everybody's getting the Duo to log into my courses. Let's move on. Mitigation number 4. This one comes from IBM X-Force. Recommendations for our clients. Let's take a look over here. Intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, signatures. The Quad 9 platform, that's actually something we could talk about. When you have these open DNS servers like Quad 9, 9.9.9.9, and there's also a Quad 1, and there's also Google's Quad 8, 8.8.8.8, and Google's got 8.8.4.4, and not to even mention their IPv6 open DNS server IP addresses. These open DNS servers, when you configure your clients to use those IP addresses as their actual DNS servers, not only do the resolution, but what else do these open DNS servers do? What else do they do? They do some security as well. They do filtering. And you got to imagine there is some DNSSEC. I'm actually going to be teaching that in one of my upcoming classes over Zoom later this week. But if you take a look at some of those platforms like Quad 9, for instance, they're hooked up specifically with IBM X-Force to detect and be cognizant of the latest and greatest COVID-19, coronavirus, cybersecurity related spoofing attempts. Okay, I see a question there. Professor, how much should we trust those free firewalls? Any thought about that? You know how the expression goes? If the service is free, somebody finish the sentence for me. If the service is free, you are the product. Excellent, Renee. JJ's a good one also, but I'm going to go with Renee. Renee's got the number 1 answer. You've got the number 2 answer. Family Feud, survey says. Mitigation number 5 comes from cranescleveland.com. Doing your due diligence, updating passwords, using paid VPNs. Oh, this goes directly into the question over there. So not just are you the product, but when you use a service that's free, you really do get what you pay for. And when you use a service that's paying, you also do get what you pay for. Those of you that were in my webinar earlier, Windows Defender is the exception, though. Windows Defender is off the charts amazing. I happen to be a big fan, Adam, of Windows Defender. And I've actually seen some articles I've posted. I don't know if you've seen it in my LinkedIn account. I've seen some articles that say antivirus, anti-malware companies are shaking in their boots because they think at some point Windows Defender might sort of homogenize all of these AV corporations. So that's something to keep in mind. I happen to think that Windows Defender is amazing. And I don't usually respond so favorably with Windows-related services. So if you take a look right over here, using something that's paid, specifically VPN. You guys remember my last webinar? We talked about the fact that free VPNs, I showed you some stories where some free VPNs were vulnerabilities for certain users that were using them. Look at the last part of number 1. Keeping kids off your personal computer, if you use it for work, is a good idea too, because you don't know where they're browsing. The VPN might not be established, and then their innocuous looking but malicious traffic might be redirected to the corporate VPN. Here at the Weissman household, we don't have that problem. Each member of our family, my wife and our 2 kids, we all have our own set of devices, and we don't need to use other people's devices because we have our own set of devices, and that's a good thing on many levels. Mitigation 6, and I know we're up against the clock. Mitigation 6 is quite long. This comes from HelpNet. Actually, that's not the long one, but it does come from HelpNet Security. So just to summarize all of this in one quick fell swoop, it's basically know who you're doing business with. And in some cases, the vendors that you're doing business with might not be worth having them as partners for the duration of COVID-19 because, as I've shown you in previous webinars, a lot of breaches happen from third-party access. So it might make sense to just cut the relationship with certain vendors until the dust clears. Mitigation number 7 comes from SC Magazine. Monitor, 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 and just keep those logs generating, and of course come up with some SIM solution to actually parse through the logs. This is the long one over here, mitigation number 8. This comes from nationallawreview.com. And if you take a look over here, if I was to summarize this really quickly, it would be education. Educate your employees. Hey, if your co-employees, if the people that are above you, below you, or at the same level in your organization are not here in this webinar, why don't you go ahead and share them a link when it comes out? Lydia will be sending out the link. Share the link with them. Education, education, education. Some of these are redundant from what we've seen before. I thought that this link had merit in of itself, which is why I included it. Don't keep anything cached. Look at number 9. Remember, password function should always be turned off. Number 12 is interesting. Mobile device management and mobile application management, where you have tools that will basically allow the company to wipe your device or keep better control of what's going on at that device remotely. That's something that's unique for this particular link of tips right over here. Now, I want to conclude with 3 brief looks at articles over here. Look at this. New York asks domain registrars. This is from March 23rd, 8 days ago. New York asks domain registrars to crack down on sites used for coronavirus scams. So the New York Attorney General wants the domain registrars to take more proactive measures to prevent these phishing sites from actually being in existence. It's a very good thing. Look at this. Free cybersecurity tools coming online to protect work-from-home staffers. Several cybersecurity firms are going the extra mile to help customers set up a safe environment for their telecommuting workforce over here. So tools are on the way. And how about this? Cybersecurity Supergroup swoops in. This is from SC Magazine on March 28th, 3 days ago. Cybersecurity Supergroup swoops in to fight COVID-19 related hacks. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask of the old Lone Ranger. And with apologies to Jim Croce, you don't mess around with medical and healthcare. So there are a bunch of volunteers. This article says there are 400 cybersecurity volunteers of 40 countries who have pledged to fight pandemic-related hacks. So that's a little form of encouragement that all is not bad. These links are good. Feel free to use these links. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And please, if your question was not answered in the chat box because we only have an hour or so, it will be answered over email. Feel free to connect with me directly and ask me questions either over email or over any of these infrastructures right over here. Mohammed says, is it possible in conclusion for attackers to bypass mitigations? Everything is possible as far as adversaries, as far as attackers go. It's a cat and mouse game, but we've got to do our due diligence and keep the wheel spinning. Thank you so much for your time. I apologize for going over. And you know what? We actually might have, Lydia, the way things go, I might say, hey, Lydia, let's do another one of these in a couple of weeks for an update as well.
Hey, we'll bring Jonathan back every week. That's no problem.
Now, let me ask you guys before I hand it back to Lydia. Did anybody hear my kids or my wife?
It was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet on my end.
In our next webinar, I'll tell you what their presents are, but I'm going to be buying them something for being quiet here in my WFH environment. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. Anyone who does have additional questions, you can email them to ritalum@rit.edu. And we will get those answers or those questions over to Jonathan. He has also provided you a number of ways to connect directly with him, so feel free to do that. We certainly want to thank Jonathan for sharing your expertise, and we thank all of you for joining us as well. Please join us for the upcoming Tiger webinars this Friday on April 3rd. We are offering a hosted rebroadcast of our very popular Beer 101 webinar. Jeff Ware is a 2004 alum from the Saunders College of Business, and he is the owner of Resurgence Brewery in Buffalo, New York. And Jeff will join us for a replay of the webinar and a live Q&A. And as we did mention, next Thursday, April 9th, we will welcome Chris Steeler for an introduction to Alumni Career Services. So please consider joining us for that. Please stay connected for additional webinars and virtual talks from members of the RIT community in the coming weeks. If you are not receiving RIT emails, we encourage you to reconnect to ensure that you receive these announcements.
But make sure they're legitimate RIT emails and don't click on any links.
Yes, if you go to the rit.edu/alumni, that is the website, and from there you will find a host of benefits and information about how to connect to the official RIT Alumni Association.
There you go.
I think we're providing that link maybe in the chat box. We can pop that up there. And then we also have official RIT Alumni Association social media channels, which are a great source for information. Those are also at rit.edu/alumni. Thank you again for joining us today. Please exit the webinar by closing the live storm window, and please let us know what you thought of the webinar through a brief survey that is going to be emailed to you after you have finished. Thank you all so much, and have a terrific day.